Did you know that the current president of Ukraine was an actor who played the president of Ukraine on a show that a production company that he himself started created? Did he pull off the biggest psyop of all time? I don't know, but let's get into it. His career is widely reported. You could actually find it on YouTube, an episode, etc. But for convenience sake, I'm going to read it off Wikipedia. Prior to his acting career, Zelensky obtained a degree in law at the Kiev National Economic University. He then pursued comedy and created the production company Kvartal 95, which produces films, cartoons, and TV shows including Servant of the People, in which Zelensky played the role of the president of Ukraine. The series aired from 2015 to 2019 and was immensely popular. A political party bearing the same name as the television show was created in March 2018 by employees of Kvartal 95, which remember is his production company. He then announced his candidacy in 2019. A political outsider, he'd already become one of the front runners in opinion polls for the election. He won the election with 73.2% of the vote in the second round, defeating Poroshenko. Identifying as a populist, he has positioned himself as an anti-establishment, anti-corruption figure. Now, what I find fascinating are multiple things. First of all, there was what some would call a revolution, some would call a coup in 2014. Wikipedia calls it revolution of dignity, in which they say the methods used to create the revolution of dignity were protesting, rioting, civil disobedience, and insurrection, where quite a few people died. I've never seen such good press from Wikipedia and a lot of people in left-wing media. The revolution of dignity. Wow, must have been a really nice one. Wonder where I could get that type of good press. Just kidding. But anyway, I find it fascinating that this took place in 2014. Vladimir Putin, The Hill and Al Jazeera reported, Putin accuses United States of orchestrating 2014 coup in Ukraine, aka the revolution. So that's what he's saying. Of course, many people in media will say it was natural, organic, authentic. It was the people taking back the power in the country, etc. I don't know the answer. I'm not saying I do. I don't live there. I don't know much about it. However, there was a changing of the guards in 2014, and then miraculously in 2015, Zelensky, with the production company that he himself created, airs this really popular show about him being the president of Ukraine, basically programming people to think he is the president and he'd make a great president. And then he started a political party with the same exact name from the show and won the election. I feel like it's one of the greatest stories that nobody's talking about. Is this one of the most effective campaign psychological operations in modern history? Let's just be clear about what Wikipedia says is a psychological operation. Are operations to convey selected information and indicators to audiences to influence their emotions, motives, and objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of governments, organizations, groups, and individuals. I think that classifies as one. Whether you like him or not, you think it's amazing or not, it doesn't matter. It was really programming people to be like, that's your president, he's funny, he's your guy, he is the servant of the people, here's the show. And now here's the political party that we've branded in the show for a couple of years. I mean, Zelensky deserves an award for maybe the most genius campaign that really started a few years before he ever ran with a television show, programming people to get ready for his legitimate arrival. Genius level stuff. Right after a revolution, fascinating story. And quickly before I go with the Russia-Ukraine situation, I'm not here to say he's the good guy, he's the bad guy, he's the bad guy, he's the good guy. You can decide for yourself. Trust a media that you trust. It's really hard to get information about this stuff. But one thing that I do know that most media seems to be leaving out a lot of times is what I'm about to share right here. I'm not a big fan of Vox, but I think they covered this pretty well here. It says how America's NATO expansion obsession plays into the Ukraine crisis. And they very honestly wrote, when tens of thousands of Russian troops started moving towards the Ukrainian border late last year, Russian President Vladimir Putin effectively issued an ultimatum. They won't go home until he had concrete agreements prohibiting any further eastward expansion of NATO. So he was concerned with NATO. He was also concerned with the 2014 coup or revolution. And from that point on, it did seem like Ukraine and NATO were getting cozier, and Putin didn't like that. People will tell you all sorts of different things. I do want to get an alternate perspective from Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not saying she's right, but I think she provides something you won't see on most news sources. She said, this war and suffering could have easily been avoided if Biden administration / NATO had simply acknowledged Russia's legitimate security concerns regarding Ukraine's becoming a member of NATO, which would mean US NATO forces right on Russia's border. I think that's a fair assessment, but here's the important part. Whether you agree with me or Tulsi Gabbard or not, I think it's always important to understand the context of what's going on. Did Putin just wake up one morning and say, hey, I'm going to invade Ukraine for no reason whatsoever? I mean, not really. I think it was a manifestation of the changing of the guards during the revolution. He felt it was illegitimate or it wasn't real and organic. Atlantic. The West felt otherwise. NATO has been trying to get Ukraine to work with them more and more and become an official member even possibly. Putin didn't like that. He claims, and Tulsi claims, that their troops were moving closer and closer towards Russia's border. I can't verify that. You can decide for yourself what you believe and hear different sides of the story, but the point is, that is really the conflict, not this nonsensical propaganda that I'm seeing. Let's be clear, not just mainstream media and left-wing Democrat accounts pushing, but even some pro-Trump conservative accounts that I respect and follow, being very sloppy with their analysis, just emotional, fear-mongering, any headline. And weirdly enough, I see them pushing the same narratives as CNN and Alexander Vindman, who they don't even like. So I'm not saying you can't agree with somebody that you disagree with, but the point I'm getting to is there is a real story going on. That's the conflict at hand, and how it will be resolved is yet to be seen. And like Russia made another move during the Obama administration, it seems like Putin smells weakness with Biden, and with a geriatric man supposedly running the country, would that really be surprising? But I find the Zelensky story just completely fascinating. I don't know what it means. I don't live in Ukraine, so I don't know if I like the guy or not, or I trust him. I've really never heard much from him, especially in my language. So this was not what that video is about. Just a fascinating story about a man who created a production company, created a story of him as president on television, and then used that platform to create a political party with the same name to become president. Truly, truly fascinating stuff. And that's what I wanted to share. A unique story that definitely intrigues and interests me. Thank you guys so much. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Give me some clarity and give me some more information that you think needs to be put on top of this video. I don't want to simplify the Russian-Ukraine conflict. I'm sure there's decades of history. I'm sure there's more than even that revolution and NATO, etc. I'm not claiming to know it all or that's it. I just think that's pretty important, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about that as if it's just completely random out of nowhere. Nah, not really. Let me know what you think. God bless you. Check out dreamrare.com or godblesshats.com and have a beautiful day.